wanted to ask you what year you were born in.
1911.
Where were you born?
Buffalo, New York.
All right. So you're not originally from California?
No, I lived there from the time I was 10.
In California?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm interested in hearing about how you decided to come to Argenta, why you decided, and then a little bit about what happened, the course of events coming.
Well, of course, the Stevensons and Rushes and we really made the decision together. And, well, we were concerned, about the militarism in the States.
That makes a better sound.
And we hated to have our boys have to make a decision that was so important.
Did you have a big family?
With 4 kids, and 2 of them boys.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't want them to have to make up their minds to or not to when the time came,
Mm-hmm.
And there was a much smaller, I don't know if you'd call it smaller or not, but there was not so much widespread pacifism then as now, and where we didn't want to brainwash our children into our way of thinking. You naturally sort of hope your children will grow up
Mm-hmm.
thinking the way you do, and the States didn't seem a very good place for that.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought about different places. We thought about India, which I never agreed to for a minute, and we thought about Costa Rica, where there were friends. But it always seemed rather odd to me that they'd go down there to get away from the States and then send their children up to school in the States
Mm-hmm.
during very formative years.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, though we never for a minute would be against an interracial marriage, we felt that we'd like to put our children in a position of where they would be able to marry someone of their own culture and not of another, just because it seemed an easier way for them. They wouldn't have so much to struggle against, though we never would have stopped them from anything else if they'd so chosen, or tried to, I mean. And it wasn't just militarism, it was, materialism and all that sort of thing. And we wanted to go live in the country somewhere where our children would have the opportunity to know that work was important, to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so Canada had the most similar culture to the States as far as we knew. And we chose British Columbia. The Stevensons have probably told you all this.
A little bit, but...
Because John Rush felt he couldn't take the cold of the prairies, so, that narrowed it to British Columbia.
Oh.
And so we were left to discover a rural situation, not too near the border. We thought a lot about a place around Creston, but figured that it was pretty close to the border. As the children got older, they'd be hopping over it all the time.
Mm. You looked at a place near Creston.
Mm-hmm.
Was that in 1952 when you'd already come up? Or
I think it was in 51.
The year before.
Yeah, we made a trip up.
Mm.
There were 2 or 3 trips made up here.
Exploring the countryside.
Yeah. Helen Stevenson came up with, I forget the names of the people, she's probably told you.
Yeah, she did tell me about that.
And then Bob and I, and John and Ann Rush, and George Pollard, and Larry Rippon, who is still in the States, and the Rushes and our 2 youngest children, the youngest child in each of our families, came up in 51. And that's when we looked at Crest, and then we went over to the Arrow Lakes. And we didn't get up even as far as Caslow.
There was another Quaker family living over in the Arrow Lakes, wasn't there?
The Norvilles.
And
well, I don't. Were they Quaker then? I'm not sure, but I think they were, but I'm not really sure. They'd come up because of the draft, and then who were the others? Orcotts. They were there too. We visited them. And we visited the Browns at Kootenai Bay, which the Stevensons have probably told you all about that.
Yeah.
And just before we had to go back because John Rush had, his holidays were at an end.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Brown told us about the Lardeau Valley, but we didn't have time to come up then. And so then, I'm sure the Stevensons told you all this. When Bob and John Rush and my son Charlie came up here with the Stevenson's freight, which they did after they'd arrived, why, then the men came on up here and looked the place over and bought this piece and what the Stevensons have.
But you didn't come right away, did you?
We, our family. No, we were the only ones who had children in school at the time. Did the Pollards? See, they came with us. They came with the Stevensons. Well, Ted had gone up and was in Victoria with Edith and her husband. And Dick was in grade 4. Now, I think that, they came up when they knew that we were going to go. If I recall correctly, they came to Tracey about 6 weeks or so before they and the Stevensons planned to go, or a few weeks before. So I think they'd already taken their Dick out of school. I'm not sure. Anyway, he was only in grade 4, but our children were older, and they were in school, and we just didn't want to take them out till the end of the year, so we came in July instead. But it was all planned together.
You were farming, weren't you, in Tracey?
Yeah.
Tomatoes?
Tomatoes.
Somebody said you sold tomatoes for Campbell's soup or something, or
Heinz
soup. Was that a big business?
Well, I don't know whether it was soup. It was to Heinz for whatever tomatoes they did. Was ours a big business?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Oh, they go right through. No, we were small farmers. We rented a few acres, and well, I don't know whether you want all this on the tape, but Bob was, unhappy about the way the migrant workers were treated, and so he, well, what the big farmers did was to hire these workers, you see, for a picking, which they'd have a lot of workers, and they'd get it all picked in 3 or 4 days, and they do this 2 or 3 times, depending on the season. And they could earn a great deal in the day, but then they were laid off, and Bob couldn't see this. And so we had a smaller setup. Help yourself. And he hired a few workers and just kept them picking all the time, so that they had jobs for the whole season. And he didn't try to, get everything picked in 3 or 4 days as the big farmers did. And by the time he hired enough, the number of people that would made it possible for them to get through the fields when this would be ripe again, so they could right back.
Did it work out?
Yeah. But I suppose everything would have been taken over by the big farmers eventually. And then we had all these other reasons for wanting to come up.
But you were making a living at farming then? So when you came up here, you thought about farming?
Yes, we thought about an awful lot of different possibilities.
Well, what did you had some kind of community at Tracey, didn't you? It was something where you shared certain things and had some kind of cooperation.
Yeah, we had some cooperation. We didn't have a community in quotation marks, but see, after we came there, the Welches came up, and the Stevensons, and then there were some local families. The Villalobos, they're a Mexican family, and others, but I remember them the most. Oh, and the Campbells, they turned up later. And, I mean, oh yes, there was that 80-acre business where Bob and John Stevenson and Louis Villalobos bought 80 acres and divided it up into plots and sold it at cost to people who, who needed a homestead. So that was quite a big cooperative endeavor.
That was Mountain View Homesteads.
Right.
When did you go to Tracey at first? Was it before the...
37.
37. That's where you started your family in Tracey?
No, we had our oldest child already.
Were you Quakers?
Not then. No, not until, I guess we started our meeting about the time the Stevensons came to Argenta, to Tracey. And that was when their twins were 3 months old.
That was after the war, then? Or towards the end of it?
Well, let's see, when would that have been? It must have been around about 45.
John was in the work camp.
Yes, it was after he was out.
Well, what were you trying to do at Tracey then? You had sort of a growing community of people then.
Well, Bob always had the idea of a whole lot of circles of cooperation, all centering in on, well, we didn't call it a meeting then because we weren't Quakers, but centering in on, I don't know what you call it, the religious or the spiritual part, but I don't know just what he called it, can't remember. And so, I mean, different things happened like that, you know. I mean, we had work camps 2 or 3 in the summer times there. And Helen came to one of them. Or maybe 2 of them.
Well, this was the Southside Improvement Association?
No, then that was something else. That was something that Louis Villalobos was very interested in, and well, we did a lot for about it during the first work camp, so that's Helen would remember about that. That I think we probably spent the most effort on during that time. No, it went on for quite a while.
What was Tracey near a large city in California?
Well, it was 20 miles from Stockton, and about 60 from Berkeley.
So it's near
Oakland.
San Francisco.
But it was a long ways away from then.
Is it along the coast?
No, it's inland. Through the mountains to get to the coast. It's in the San Joaquin Valley.
It was a good farming area?
Yeah, lots of farms.
Is it built up since then?
A lot.
So it's no longer a real farming area? Or?
Well, I guess there's still farming area around there, but the city certainly built up, and the Mountain View Acres have just turned into the bedroom for Oakland. Very fancy dwellings and everything there.
This is you mean the Mountain View homestead that you started?
Yeah.
Which was supposed to be for, you thought it was going to be for people who couldn't afford.
It was for a long time. And there still are some, I think there's still 2 or 3 families there that were there originally, whose lives it has really changed. So, at least we have that to remember.
That's interesting. So, because they were large lots, they were quite nice.
They were 5-acre lots.
For an expensive subdivision. Well, was the number of people growing in the area about the time you left, was that part of the reason? It was getting less rural?
I don't know. I suppose to some extent. I don't really remember exactly. I can't remember how it was before.
Right. Well, no matter how rural Tracey was, Argenta was more rural.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, one thing about Tracey was that they built a new school, an elementary school, about as far from our house as the trees down there, the windbreak. And
100 yards away.
I've never learned distances. And maybe it was a little farther, but it was close, and there was nothing in between us. It was farmland. And how do you keep your boys home on a Saturday morning to do chores when there are kids playing all over the schoolyard? So it just wasn't the sort of atmosphere we wanted, and it was a big enough city, 10,000 or so. And we just figured the boys would grow up and get cars and dash around during their high school years and get into this and that and the other thing.
Well, when did you first set foot in Argenta?
In August of 52.
How did you get here? On the Moyet?
Well, we got to Lardeau on the Moyet, and we had to go way around.
You drove around?
We, you see, we had a, let's see. Oh, our trail, you might like to see the pictures that I have. We had 2 trailers, one great huge one that carried, our household furnishings, and another house trailer for Mother Boyd. And those had to be put on a flat car in Caslow. And the flat car attached to a train, of course, or an engine, went out, or the engine backed them onto the, what do you call the thing you push?
Barge?
Yeah, the barge. And, of course, there was no way to get them off in Argenta. So we landed in Lardeau and spent the night there. And then eventually they got them off the next day. And then we went around, and it took us 5 or 6 hours to go around. For one thing, the clutch had broken on the car that was pulling the house trailer.
Was that the little house trailer that Stevenson?
No, it was a bigger one than that. And with the our 1-ton truck, which pulled the great big trailer, it was a 4-wheel trailer, so you've backed a 2-wheeler probably. Have you ever backed a 4-wheeler?
No.
Well, it isn't just twice as hard. I don't know how many times harder it is. It's terrific. And so if there was there was some backing at one point. Bob, who was ahead of us, took the wrong road and went down to Hauser. So he had to get up that hill. And he had to disconnect and everything and come up. And then we'd started down it following, and he had to pull us back up because we didn't have any clutch. And they got to the Hamel Creek Bridge, which you remember. Was it here when you came, or wasn't it? Well, you know where it was. It's a right angle turn there that he couldn't make without disconnecting. And every time we came to a hill, he had to pull us up because of no clutch. I had to disconnect and come back and pull us up. Took forever. Do you want to see those pictures?
Sure.
They're
so many changes. It's incredible.
yeah.
Where did you live when you first came?
In the cabin at the wharf.
Did you say you had this property and were going to move right onto it?
Well, it was all bush, you know.
This was. You'd bought it from Shuddy? Did he live here?
No, he just owned the land. He lived at Shuddy Bench.
Was Roy out here when you moved?
No, Roy wasn't. They didn't even own the property there when we came. They were living. Roy was about 18, I think, when we came, and they lived at the landing.
So where were your nearest neighbors from here?
Well, the Stevensons were in the hotel right there.
And then Cooper Creek.
Well, Cooper Creek was a million miles away because there was a river in between.
Huh. So really, if you went up the road, you'd
Oh, you mean when we came here?
When you lived
When we
here.
came here, our nearest neighbors in time, getting there, were the Stevensons.
All the way back. That's 2.5 miles.
Because to get over there, well, we used to keep a boat. We didn't personally, but people kept a boat on each side of the river so that one could go across and make, with 3 crossings, still leave a boat on each side. We did that frequently.
Oh, that was in the 50s. Before the bridge.
50s. Yeah, I can't think when we get the bridge done. Oh, it wasn't so long after we came, I guess, because our Charlie worked on it, and I think he was still in school.
Well, now there were 2 bridges, right? There was one that didn't last very long.
Well, there were actually 3.
3. Well, what was the first one?
Well, the first one was clear across, and it lasted for 6 or 7 days.
Where was it located?
Right where the present one is.
Why did it only last?
Because, the bridge builders hadn't listened to the old timers here, who said sometimes the river would rise so high that the deadheads would come down and, break it up. And that within a week or so after they had completed it and had a big party and celebration, this happened. Well, actually, the bridge wasn't broken up because it was dynamited instead. It was obvious that it was going to be wrecked by the deadheads. So it was dynamited, and then we had to wait a year. Then they started it again, and that year they didn't get it all built before the high water. They started too late. I forget whether they tore out what they'd done. I forget that. But anyway, we didn't have it, so we waited for another year, and then they finally took the advice of the old timers, and they did a double span, or is that what you call it?
They raised it higher out of the water then, so that the water wouldn't come up so close to it.
Well, they doubled something. Would be the span, or what would it be?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, they did it very differently. John can tell you that. He can tell you accurately. There's no use in my dwelling on it. And so it was the 3rd year that we finally had our bridge.
Well, why did they dynamite it? Why didn't they just wait and see if it would?
Because it was obvious it was going to go, and I guess everything would have been lost if it had just gone down the river. I mean, I guess they saved the pieces or something. Why don't you talk to John about that?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that isn't up my alley.
Right.
Or Ernie Alexander, he could really tell you, because he's the one, I think, that did all the predicting and and actually placed the charge.
Could you hear the explosion from over
I
here?
don't remember.
That'd have been incredible.
But Ernie could tell you all about it, and he'd love to.
Mm. Well, did you move out here to this property before this house was built?
No, we moved into this house.
Mm.
There was a lot to do for finishing, but it was tight with screens.
To keep the mosquitoes up?
Oh, we moved in during the midst of one of the most horrible mosquito seasons that I can remember.
Mm.
And it was terrible because you can't close the doors while you're bringing in a wood stove and a piano, and so it was just as bad inside as out.
You had your piano here.
Yes, we brought the piano with us.
Yeah.
We brought 2 pianos when we came Mother Boyd's also.
Mm. We
We had a cow and 2 pianos in the same conveyance. Well separated, mind you.
Well, you lived in the shed or the cabin behind the hotel.
We lived there for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And all from the first you were clearing out here.
No, not right at first. The rushes couldn't come until a year later, and we didn't really. All of us we didn't want to make up our minds finally until they came.
You mean about even staying?
Yes, about living here for certain. I mean, we expected to, but we sort of waited for them to make a final decision. And so then the second year, Bob was clearing this, and the third year building. And then we moved in. But we'd been here practically 3 years.
Mm. And living in the cabin all that time was fairly crowded circumstances. There was no meeting house then. Where did you have meetings?
In the hotel where the Stevensons lived. Occasionally we would have it in different homes, but mostly it was there. There was a big living room.
It was a small meeting.
Oh, yes. There were 5 families of us after the first year.
That was
the Rushes and Wolves came up the second year, and that made 5 families. At first there were just the 3, and then the Valentines came up a few months before we moved out here.
Did the Wolves come? Were they Quakers? The Wolves?
No, he was is he a congregational minister? Or no. He's a minister. And Ruth Wolf, and she joined the Quakers, the Quaker meeting.
In Tracey?
No, here, after they came up. And the girls, who were they 9 and 11 or something like that, they wanted to be included. But Elmo never joined because he didn't want to lose his status as a minister, Unitarian minister. Or maybe he just became Unitarian afterwards. I'm not sure. Anyway, he was a minister from the beginning. And so then there were 5 families, and then the Valentines came, and there were 6, and we were still meeting in there. And all of us were in there. I mean, all the children were in the meeting every Sunday.
That was quite a group. You had a lot of children with you.
Yeah, we did.
Well, why did the Wolves come? Were they part of, you knew them in Tracey? Or?
Actually, Bob and Elmo knew each other in Chicago. They were both going to a seminary, a different seminary. I mean, 2 different seminaries. And I must have met Elmo, but I never could remember him. And then they moved to Modesto after we'd been in Tracey a few years. Well, quite some years, I think, maybe 10 or 12 or more. And they came over and visited us, and we became friends, and they came over, small F friends. And they came over every now and then, and then they spent a summer in a house we'd moved out of when we built a house there too. When we moved into our new home, we had this house that was supposed to be a chicken house, but no chicken ever lived in it. We lived in it for 5 years, and then the Welches lived in it for some time, and then the Stevensons lived in it for some time. And the wolves lived in there one summer,
Mm-hmm.
and the Pollards lived in it for a few weeks before they came up here, so it was well used.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were interested in our move, you see,
Mm-hmm.
and they just decided finally they wanted to come.
Mm. In Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
He was, so Bob was a minister.
Mm-hmm, for a short time. Huh.
Not a tomato farmer at first.
No.
Hmm. Did you have a professional training too?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, when did Delta Farmers or Delta Co-op get started?
Oh, you better talk to the Stevensons about that. They'll remember so much better. Back there in the beginning, more or less.
Helen talked about, she said that your arrangement was that you wanted to live as the families of three brothers, I think she put it. Is it?
Yes, that was the way we put it, I believe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What was the vision or the idea behind the cooperation? I mean, it was an extension of. It was certainly different from the nuclear family concept and the traditional association of friends in a meeting and where they
Well, we wanted to be close enough to, to help each other, but to still be, have our own independence. At least I know Bob and I felt that way very strongly. The Stevensons and Rushes for a time worked to close out a closer relationship.
Mm-hmm. Were you all going to live out in this area?
I think at one time that was considered, but I'm not just sure now, because obviously it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. How did you make a living? You came up. I mean, you had to build your place. And you were
Yes.
living in...
Well, as for us, let's see, we were getting something like $60 a month rent from our home in Tracey until it was sold. 60 or 65, I'm not sure, something like that, something rather small.
Mm-hmm.
And we had brought up the Stevenson's freight, and they paid us back in milk and eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in the rent on the shack, which was in theory $10 a month plus, and we put in repairs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, actually it was supposed to be 20, but it was 10 was what went on paper because we kept up the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so we lived on that the first year, and that was all we lived on. And
So you had no work that year?
no, I think once or twice there was a little work at the wharf.
Mm-hmm.
By the government, but not very much of anything. And we had our daughter in school in Scattergood, and that year the tuition and board and room and all was $300, and I had been left $300 by a very good friend. So, I mean, that went there. That took care of her, though it didn't take care of getting her there.
Mm-hmm.
And but that was all we had to live on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year we got children's allowance. More tea? And we managed to build the house because we had $3,000 that had been of my grandmother's that she'd left me when she died.
Do you want some?
Yeah, thank you. So we built the house on that, but that was all the money we had. And then we earned some, you see, gradually by doing logging and this and that and the other thing. The Delta Co-op did that together. Thank you, that's way up.
Okay. The co-op was logging?
Yeah, so we did logging and then later on we got into some cattle, I believe, and we had pigs for quite a while.
Yeah, Helen said I should ask you about the pigs.
Yeah, well, don't.
No. Don't.
They weren't my friends.
Oh. Did you have them right here?
Well, theoretically they were out there, but they, we had them shut in with an electric fence.
Mm-hmm.
But pigs are too smart for an electric fence, and they'd decide whether it was worth it, to go through or not. And every now and then they'd get in here digging up my lawn or something. I wasn't very fond of them.
Well, did you make money on them, or was it
I think we did.
Mm-hmm.
Some,
So slowly, but you still didn't have one line, like you didn't have an established farm like Roy or...
Oh, no.
Or anything. So you were still just trying different things?
Yes, I guess we were. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But I'm sure that Helen or John could tell you much more about the co-op than I could. That's the sort of thing I just forget.
Hmm.
I won't forget the pigs, of course.
Well, was this field all, when you first moved in, was this all bush?
Between the windbreak and those birch trees had been cleared.
Mm-hmm.
And also a piece way down below on what's now Roy's property, the highest piece there. In all, I think there were 11 acres cleared out of the 310 or something that we bought.
How did they clear them? Did you use horses? Or?
No. Then from the birch trees to the spruce was second growth. It had been cleared many years ago, but there was a lot there. It was all virgin where we are now.
Would that have been cleared?
Well, it had been, but it was thick, but not with big trees, but very thick growth. And Bob did it with a chainsaw. And then we hired a cat to come in, I think, for $15 in one day or something, and took out the...
Take out the stuff?
Yeah, And after we had it all cleared in here, and our basement dug and everything else, and the house on top of it, then Hugh came with his big outfit.
Oh, I heard that Hugh bought a big cat, I guess.
Yeah, Would it be a D8? Something like that. Anyway, and then around was cleared. I mean, over there beyond, well, there isn't a fence there now, is there? I was going to say beyond our fence line. But, where the growth thickens a little bit in there. That was all cleared, and all down below was cleared with his outfit. But this was all done by hand. Well, with a chainsaw.
That was planted in crops then?
Down below there, yes.
What did they grow?
Clover, some of the time anyway, and did we have alfalfa there? I don't know, different crops.
So after you got established, then you were farming hogs and crops. And
yes, it was part of the
big barn?
co-op. No, we didn't have any barn. Well, we had various sheds and places, for the pigs and milking shed and things like that. We didn't have a barn, no.
But they're all gone now.
Oh, I think Roy has taken a couple of them, or maybe more, over to his place, but there's still a couple. There's one right down there you can see.
Oh, yeah.
And most of them are movable and been moved around. We had chicken house, we had different things around. And then Roy, or the Lakes and McNichols together bought this acreage across the fence after we'd been here.
That was Larry and Roy?
Well, there are two brothers on each side, Jim and Alvin. I'm not just sure when they bought that, to tell the truth. But it was, whether it was before we moved in here or not, I think maybe it was, but they had not bought it when we first came. And there used to be a little shack over there and a big barn.
And Roy's the one who survived as the farmer. Well, of course, Alvin and Jim were down the landing. Well, was this looked on? I mean, you were moving out here, they were moving out here. This was being looked on as potential agricultural area being developed? And
Mm-hmm.
was there was an agricultural agent that was involved, Sig Peterson, when you coming up?
Oh, yes, I think that, see, I wouldn't remember about him, but I think he was the one, I think he came up with, when John and Bob and John Rush came up, I think he came up with them and looked this over at the time they bought it, or maybe they made a second trip up, I'm not sure. But it's when the Stevensons and Pollards were down at the Kootenai, near Kootenai Bay.
Ashram there, yeah. Well, what was Argenta like when you first came? There weren't very many people there.
No, there was a wharf, and the Tars were living here, up where the Fisher place is.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, the next people from there would have been the two Begwin families, George Begwin and Charlie and Ruth Begwin.
Mm-hmm.
And old Mrs. Gallus and Glenn Seamark lived where the Valentines live. And Steve Soswick's parents lived where the Grosses live. And Steve's family was, where Glenn is now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was it.
It was a very small community then.
Mm-hmm.
How were you received by them?
We were really welcomed, I think, especially by the Begwins.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was awfully nice to us. I know that. And generous as all get out with their produce and things.
And you were given a lot of food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I felt that we were quite warmly received, actually.
Mm-hmm. Was there a road to the landing in those days?
No. Just a trail.
Mm-hmm. When you came, that meant you could they could reopen the school, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you had children in school still?
Mm-hmm.
So your kids had to go in every day to...
Well, of course, at first we lived just across the creek from the school.
Right.
And then, yes, then they did have to. And we had, after the first year, we had 3 going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And they rode bikes in the time of year when they could. And then we got horses one year, expecting them to ride in on horseback. But that was an awful year for ice. The ice came before the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept those horses all winter.
Mm-hmm.
And they only rode them in 4 days. It just wasn't safe.
Mm-hmm.
But one of our boys had a driver's license. He was old enough by then.
Mm-hmm.
And so he drove our truck in to the wharf,
Mm-hmm.
where that year our 2 boys went to school. And then Beth, who was little, hiked up the hill to the where the rural center is now.
And you sold the horses?
Yes, well, one of them had been borrowed, and the other had been bought and sold. They weren't very good horses.
Mm.
One of them was mean.
When did you first have boarders for the Friends School? Or
Well,
for the school?
Well, we had, Eddie lived with us 2 years before the Friends School opened.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be, the school opened in 59, I think, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that would be the years beginning, the falls beginning 57 and 58. He lived with us for those 2 years, and we had another boy with us, too, at the same time. A different one year and the next. And then we had friends from young people in the Friends School from the time it started until about 68, I guess, somewhere in there.
Well,
I think we had them for 9 years.
Mm-hmm. When the bridge opened, did that change across to Cooper Creek? Did that change a lot?
Oh yes, of course, because you had neighbors then over there, you know.
Did you? Well, at some point you gave up trying to farm. You gave up trying to make a living at it.
I don't know just when that happened. Probably about the time that Bob started teaching part-time in Caslow.
What was he teaching?
Music. But I can't tell you the year.
In the 60s? Maybe.
Yes, I think so. He started teaching full-time. I know when he started teaching full-time. That was in 66, I think. The fall of 66.
Bob taught full-time at Caslow, rather, but he didn't teach at the Friends School?
Early in the Friends School, he taught a course occasionally. When he taught in Caslow, it wasn't just Caslow. He taught in Jewett and the first year, or maybe it was just the first year, and across the ferry, too, over there in Riandell and Crawford Bay.
So he
went all over with his music.
Was he away from home evenings?
Well, sometimes evenings, yes, but not nights.
Night.
No, he was always home nights.
So that would have been a good paying job. That would have been a big change for you.
Yeah, well, that's when, you see, our boys had put themselves through the universities. But in those days, it was pretty hard for a girl, too. And we had Beth started that year. So that was really why he took it on. Well, he also had the opportunity. I mean, you have to have both. We didn't see how she could possibly earn her way. See, they could get these big trail jobs in the summer. And
were they working up here?
Yeah.
Trail jobs, like
working on trails, yes. And so they put themselves through. We didn't help them at all. I think we sent Charlie either $5 or $25 once, and that's all we ever helped either of them.
Were you poor?
Well, we didn't have any money except just what we, and so we had our, what do we have? Our children's allowance, and the Delta Co-op. I think that we gave each of us something like $60 a month and another $5 for each child, or something like that.
But where did that money come from?
Well, from money that the co-op earned, logging and farming and all.
So all the hogs in the fields out there were all joint ventures with Hugh and
they were.
George.
But Bob had the responsibility for the farming end. And
who did the logging? George and...
Well, Bob was doing logging too. George ran the machinery a lot and took care of the machinery.
And they'd sell logs around here to Mills or down to Nelson.
I don't know where we sold them. I really don't. Well, I guess they had a contract once, and they worked together with Roy and Larry for a while on some logging, I think, because for a while they were working near here, and they always came in here for their lunch.
Well, that was that picture of them all sitting on the steps there that you showed me.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the hotel steps, not these.
Right. They worked together most days as a work crew.
Quite often, anyway. I don't remember just how often.
That's interesting.
I mean, different times of the year it would be different lengths of time. You know, I mean, more together, but we all had our own places to look after too.
Did you plant a garden at I guess not the first year, but the second year when you came? In the hotel.
Let's see. I think we planted out here the first time we had a garden. Out below the windbreak there in that high place that was cleared. I think the Stevensons let us have a very small space there, but it was very small because they needed it. And I think we grew lettuce or something at near the cabin. That was about all. We had bad luck with the garden out here because elk and deer and everything kept breaking into it. We finally had about a 9-foot fence.
Well, when you came in on the Moye and drove around, when was the next time you left Argenta to go away? How long were you here for the first time?
I think the first time, I don't know. I think we drove down to Nelson that winter once, and when we came back, we figured we weren't going out again for a long, long time. But within a few days, Charlie managed to break his hand, so Bob took him to Caslow.
I remember Mary said she didn't go away from here for years after coming. And I just wondered if you were quite...
Well, we mostly went out to the dentist, you know. We generally went down to see a dentist in Nelson every so often. But I think there was one period of 13 months where I didn't go anywhere, which seems odd because I thought we went out every 6 months to the dentist. I thought we did that. I'm vague.
Did you feel isolated? I mean, was it a hard thing to cope with, or was it?
Well, no, I didn't feel isolated. I was, I suppose, but I mean, that didn't bother me. But what I found so terribly hard was the dirt and the cramped living quarters we were in. That I really found that terribly hard. I'd been the only one of the women involved when we talked it over together. There were 5 of us, you know. The only one that had said she really didn't want to be without electricity and so on. Everybody else was very noble and all, you know, and they'd like this simple living. Well, I thought what it would be, and I just didn't want it. As it happened, I was the one who got it the last. But, see, we'd had modern conveniences where we lived. And then we came up here in this, and we had a nice big house in this little tiny thing. And I just can't describe to you the dirt that came down from that upstairs when the boys were there. So you couldn't clean up there because Bob just put flooring up about 8 feet wide for their room for their beds and to crawl in on. And so over here were the floor joists and the ceiling. And there's no way of cleaning that, you know, no possible way. I suppose if you'd had some kind of a vacuum you could have, but you need electricity for that. And my boys were very dirty boys during their teen years. I guess many are. And at home, and that is in Tracey, I'd made them, you know, clean up their rooms to a certain extent. And, you know, that sort of thing.
You could hardly poke your head up there, I guess.
I did once or twice, and I just broke down crying. I couldn't stand it. It was, emotionally, it was a very difficult period for me. From that point of view, because I couldn't stand the filth. And they'd throw their bed covers and their blankets and everything over there with all that dirt, you know, and their clothes. And I just gave up looking up there. I couldn't stand it. And when the wind blew, or when they moved, the dirt would come down between the ceiling boards. And I can remember sitting at the table with a pitcher of milk here and having the dirt just come down to the pitcher of milk. And then Bob built me some shelving all around our bedroom. It was a large bedroom. Beth and Bob and I were all in that. Right up near the ceiling for me to keep things like sheets and so on. That was before we had a lot of plastic. And I'd put them up there and I'd take them down, they'd be dirty. And I'd wash them all by hand. And I washed in the summertime, I washed in a tub outdoors, and I'd picked up a second-hand wringer that didn't do as good a job as I could do with my hands, but I couldn't do that many. And so, I mean, they were still practically dripping when I put them through. It was very, very hard. And John, I think the second year, I used John's gas machine in the summertime. He kept it out on the porch. And so I used that, but all winter I had to do it in tubs in the house, and for which the boys carried water. And then I had to learn to cook over a wood stove, and we had only green wood, and I had to cook all the wood before I could burn it. So the oven was always a mess, you know. I mean,
because it was full of wood.
Yes, and when I took the wood out, there was all the debris left. So it was always a mess. And I had that stove, you know how big a wood stove is, in the little hallway, you know, the hallway of the... I had the wood stove there, and there was only about this much room left for me. And so I sweltered, of course, by the stove. And then I had a kitchen table and shelving and things in the lower half of that hallway. And the floor, I guess, was right on top of the dirt. And it was freezing cold there, so I got chilblains in that part, and then I'd roast by the stove. The kitchen was too small to have anybody help me with dishes or anything. And well, it was just very, very hard. So I did have a hard time. I'll never forget it.
And did Bob have much work to keep him busy?
Well, he was busy. I don't know what he was doing. I mean, I can't think back, but getting us set up and I guess trying to find a place to pack all our stuff away. And I don't know. I can't remember what he was doing that year. But if he had any work that he was paid for, it was very little. Well, of course, he did quite a lot to fix up the house so we could live in it, and we had to sort of pile all furniture on top of it. I mean, we had no wall space left. Everything was covered with some kind of furniture, clear up to the ceiling, I guess.
And the Rushes moved into the Coleman cabin?
Yeah.
And the Wolfs moved into the Wolf cabin?
Yeah, that little tiny cabin. They were in a smaller space than we.
And then the Pollards got burned out?
They got burned out. They stayed in the Stevenson's attic for a time while all the men together built them a place to live in, and that was a very small place for a time. I think they did it in about 2 weeks, or was it 6 weeks? Anyway, it was a very short time.
That they raised a house for them. And that was still quite early in the winter, or late in the winter. It was March or something, was it? Or was it summertime?
No, it was winter when the house burned, for sure. I know that, because I remember the snow. I remember rushing out here to get them in. They were, I guess I could even pinpoint the year then. Bob and John Stevenson and John Rush and George Begwin were all working out here. And David Stevenson came rushing down the hill to tell me that, the house was on fire. And so I got in the only car that was available there that I'd never driven before. I think it was March, the worst time of the year, when part of the road was ice and part of the road was mud and part of the road was snow, that kind of year.
And there'd have been no plows out here to clear the road, would there?
Did they have plows then? I don't know. Anyway, the road was a mess, with about every variety of hazard that it could have. And I'd never driven the car. And I knew that if I drove fast, I'd probably go off the road, and that wouldn't help anything. So I had to make myself drive very slowly. And at that time, we came in from the road that the Smiths have now, came in that way. And I got down to the bottom of the field there and called to them to come. And while they were coming, I tried to turn around. I couldn't find the reverse. I never will forget. I didn't know where reverse was. You had to push it or do something extra to it. And our car wasn't like that. However, one of the men drove it. I guess the owner, whoever it was. I don't remember who drove it. So then we got back to the fire. We stopped at the wharf and got what buckets we could. And I never will forget walking up the driveway to the Pollard place. All of us were slipping and sliding all over because it was ice. We hadn't been here long enough to have the brains that George Begwin had. He didn't slip. He walked up on the side where the snow was. And I guess we in our anguish didn't even think of it.
So George Begwin worked with you then?
Yes, he was working with us at that time. He wasn't a member of the co-op, but he was working with us.
Pollard's house was pretty well destroyed by the time we got there.
Yes, well, there was no way of stopping it, really.
Mm.
No, the older kids, Ted and our Charlie, had taken out an awful lot of things, probably endangering themselves more than they should have.
Mm.
I remember how kind Anna Elliott was. She couldn't do anything to help. She was new here then and seemed at first like a fish out of water. She soon changed, but she did seem that way at first. But she took it upon herself to take over Dick and comfort him. He was just a little boy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that. While everybody else was trying to put out the fire, she figured that was the important thing to do.
Mm. Then there would have been Don, too.
Well, I imagine Mary was looking after him. He was always clinging to her apron strings as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And Dick, it was down the driveway a little bit where they were. He'd probably started to run off somewhere, not knowing what to do, and she probably collected him. I don't really know.
She came from Victoria?
Was it Victoria? I think it was. If not, it was Vancouver, but I think it was Victoria. Mm-hmm.
And Hugh. It's snowing.
Snowing or raining?
Snow or rain, I don't know which. So the economics have changed a great deal. And the ways of cooperating have changed, I guess, a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I think anything you want to know about that Delta Co-op, you should talk to the Stevensons about. Or George would probably be able to tell you quite a bit about it, George and Mary. But I'm not very good at that. I never was very good at anything that was, you know, any organ. Actually, we'd dissolve, you know. I mean, we'd never intended it to. Well, I should say we didn't start out with the expectation that it was going to last forever. Yes, and we made provision for dissolving it in case we were going to.
How?
I don't know how.
Well, I mean,
it didn't come as a blow to us. We didn't feel that we had to keep it on forever because we had it.
Mm-hmm.
And when the time came to lay it down, we just laid it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there were hard feelings about it.
No. Well, the economics of having the school and having the Stevenson had an income from that, and the Rushes left, and Bob went to.
I can't remember just when we closed it up, you know. And I gave Bob had all that material written up, and I gave it all to the Stevensons after he died because I knew that Helen was much more of an historian than I would ever be.